Yeah, hello everyone. Good evening and welcome to the Oracle Enoch Explore August session. And this month we are going to have two wonderful sessions. One is enabling application shortcuts and interactive grid customizations, which is going to be done by Akil. And Akil is one of our Enoch leader and he's an expert. He has developed plugins as well. So it's really a great privilege for all of us, like to hear from the person who had developed plugins for Oracle Apex. The second is going to be on the no-cost PDF generation in Oracle Apex, which is going to be shared by Pooja and Satish, experts, and they're all experienced developers. So stay tuned and learn more. Thanks for joining us. And without taking much time, I'm going to hand over to Akil. So over to you, Akil.
Yeah. Thank you, Richard. So hello, everyone. So welcome to this session. So it's a pleasure like sharing my knowledge to all of you. So yeah, as Richard told, I have experience, like I have 4+ years of experience developing application with Oracle Apex, and like I've been like writing a number of blogs and creating plugins and all those stuff. So like without wasting any time, as Richard told, I'll just go into the topic. So let me share my screens and please let me know if it is visible.
Yes, Akil.
Yeah. Okay.
Make it as presentation mode.
Yes, sure. Okay. So yeah. So we have. I'm gonna talk about two topics today. One is enabling application shortcuts using the Apex.Actions API, and actually the Apex.Actions API is like a very vast API which has been developed a long back by the Apex team. And I won't be able to tell about all the features of Apex.Actions API, but I'll be just telling about how to use the add shortcut method to just add shortcuts to the application or a particular page. Okay, and next will be about the interactive grid customization. So how you can use interactive grid to like the customized interactive grid using JavaScript. So this will be the two topics which I'll be talking about today. So now getting into the topic. So the first topic will be about Apex.Actions API. So yeah, so as I mentioned here, the actions is an interface which manages a collection of action objects. So first, let me talk about Apex.Actions. So it was developed in while the Apex 5.0 version was released. So this was mainly released to just centralize some of the codes and mainly for the interactive grid to add shortcuts. So this was the main reason why this API was developed at the first place. And then why this actions.api was the other reason why this was used was like we can use this API like globally across many applications just to make our code like instead of writing duplicate codes, we can use this Apex.Actions API just for, let's consider if you have a button or a menu or something, you can use the same code just to hit all the buttons and the menus. So here we have this term called interface. So interface is nothing but it is a piece of code which will help our system in the sense the computer to just enforce some actions. Like here it is mentioned like enforce certain properties on an object. The general term is nothing but it just allows a system to just enforce some like some actions on a particular object or a particular, like example, if we have a button, it will help us to enforce some actions on a button or something. Okay, so this has some particular rules if you are using this Apex.Actions API, and this actions.api will have different methods. Like in this example, I'm showing you that add. So same way we have add shortcuts, we have create context. So we have many methods which the Apex.Actions use. So some of the mandatory things which we will have to follow is, so the name. So let's consider in this example, I showed you name, label, and action, right? So the name, it is always mandatory that you should provide a name, and that name should always be unique. So that is the first main thing which you will have to do. Okay, and please stop me in between if you have any doubts. So please don't hesitate to stop me. And the other thing is the name should not contain any spaces or like the characters which I've mentioned here, right? So the name should not contain all the space. Okay. And next, now next is an example. I've just given here an example on how to use this apex.actions.add. Add is nothing but a method which the apex.actions API uses. Okay, so here so this is just a general thing. Like we should use a name, and this send why I've given send hyphen email as the name is the Apex team has given us a coding guidelines, like a kind of guidelines which is best to follow while using the name. So they want us to separate the name with hyphen because I think they are doing some manipulations in the backend using the name with hyphen or something. So they have preferred us to use the name with hyphen as a separator. Okay, so these are some of the things which it will be good if we follow. Okay, and next is the label. Label is nothing but it is just for us to identify the name. Like this name cannot like we cannot use this like let's consider you're using send underscore email like hyphen one or something we'll be using, right? So this cannot be this is just a unique identifier, and we cannot call this as a term. That's why they have given us a label where which with which we can like give a one liner or something to identify that this is doing it. Okay, and next is the action. Action is nothing but what this action is going to perform. This is just like one of the object which will have with which we can write our own functions. Maybe you can write an Ajax callback, or you can use apex.event.trigger to trigger custom dynamic action or a normal JavaScript function. Anything you can use here. But if you want to connect with the server, you should just use like either you should call a custom dynamic action, or you should just use some Ajax to just hit the server and return the data back. Okay. So next I'll be just moving into some examples by using this apex.actions API. Then next we'll talk about the grid customizations. Okay. So here I've created an application which has an example, which will be showing how I added shortcuts to the application. Okay. So here, if you see in this report, I've added 3 data using this shortcut. Okay. So if you see here, the data which I've added to the left side pane, right, in this employee details will be visible here. Okay. So with these details, I can map an employee to a particular department and a project. So now you can see that I'm not using my mouse anywhere. I'm just using the keyboard. Okay, so now let's consider I'm just putting something called Raja here. I'm just giving tab. I'm choosing some date, and I'm just giving some address as test address, and I'm just using the control plus S which I used there. Okay, if I'm using control plus S, and the data is automatically saved, and the first data, like the data which I saved, will be appeared here. Okay, it is not only this one, it will also have the data which is already stored here. Okay, this is like the dummy data which I've already used. And next, I'm just using my tab key to navigate to the next one, and I'm choosing a department, and next is a project. I'm just choosing some project, and I'm using Alt plus M to just map the employee. So once I've mapped the employee, if you see here, the Raja which I've stored here, right, which I've mapped is automatically visible here. So after this, I'm just using Alt plus P to print this report as an Excel. Okay. So why I'm showing this example is, so if you see in many like if you go to some departmental stores and all those things, you can see that people don't use mouse. They directly use their keyboard, like the number keys and everything, just to do the manipulation. So that is one of the main reasons why they've like given us the shortcuts to use, so people can stop using, like the people who don't prefer using mouse can use keyboard to do all the manipulations. Okay, so now I'll be explaining how this is working. Okay, so till here, do you guys have any doubts? Okay, so I'll consider it as a no. So here, as I showed you, there are 3 regions. So I've created 3 regions here, and 3 buttons for each region. Okay. So how did I add this shortcut to the application? Okay. So first thing is I've added dynamic action for that particular button. So we can even click the button to map the employee, or we can use the shortcuts also. Okay. So here, how did I add the shortcuts? So let's go to this execute and page load section. Okay. So this commented out code. So this is the way how we usually do a action. Okay. So we just use the apex.actions.add the add method, which uses the apex.actions interface to add a particular action to the page. Okay. So this can be a global level, or like I'm global level in the sense it can be an application level action or a page level action. But for this example, I'm just showing a page level action. Okay. So as I told, the name should be mandatory, and the label is an optional one, so I just didn't give the label. And the action is save employee details. It is nothing but a JavaScript function which I've created, and I'll come to this next. Okay, so this action is for mapping the employee. Okay, so usually how we do is we just add an action and then we just add a shortcut for that particular name of the action. Okay, so I didn't want to complicate this because this will first create the action and then it will add a shortcut. So even if you are using JavaScript, the client side is more faster than the server side, but still if you're like using application which has a lot of load on the server, like a lot of load on the client, right, it is always better to use some JavaScript which like an optimized JavaScript. Okay, because already you know that Apex has millions of lines of JavaScript code which is written, so we should not load the JavaScript so much. Even if you are loading, it is always good to use best practices. Okay, so I am not using this, and I've just declared. So I've just declared the save employee as a JavaScript object. So object is nothing but we'll be enclosing objects in curly brackets, and it will be written in key value pass. Key and value pass are nothing but the left side one to which you are assigning is called the key, and the value is called the value. Okay, so that is why we call the object. That's why an object has key and value pass. Okay, so here what I'm doing is I'm just adding a name for that particular action, and I'm just giving the what action it should do, and I'm just giving the shortcut key. So the shortcut keys, please don't use the shortcut keys which the normal browsers use. Like for example, you'll use Control P to print the screen and all those things, right? So sometimes it will overlap the existing action, or sometimes it doesn't work. So that's why I've used Alt plus S here. And the other thing is this example is only for Windows because I cannot use Command S in the MacBook because it will print some separate like a separate special character. Okay, so if you are using a Mac, just try to use three key combination like Control P Z or something like that. Okay, so that is preferable for MacBook. Okay, and I'm just assigning this, like here I can assign it to different, like I can even assign it to the var variable or like the var or let anything. But why I assign it to a constant is because I don't want to use this particular variable again and again, because it might confuse the UI. Okay, so the code might not run if you just use this value again and again. I mean, not the value, the variable. Okay, so after assigning this to a constant, what I'm doing is I'm just adding this action into as an array of objects. Array is nothing but it's a comma separated value. So let's consider if I'm declaring a null array, it will be like var uh, uh, array is equal to. So this is how you should declare an array. Okay, so it should be enclosed in box brackets. Okay, so the array can consist of like objects also inside it. So let's consider this is one object, and this is the other object, and this is the other object. So this is the skeleton how this will be assigned. Okay, so if you can see here, I'm enclosing this objects inside this particular array in comma separated base. Okay, do you guys have any doubt till this?
Yeah, Akil, we can proceed.
Yes.
And I've asked them to post the questions. So at the end of this session, we can have the Q&A.
Okay. Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah, thank you. Okay. So now if you see here, this action, can you see this action? So this will be the functions which I've created. Okay, so this functions I've created in the function and global variable declaration section. Okay, so these are the three functions which I've created. Okay, so here what I'm doing is I'm just clicking the button. So why I'm doing this is I told you, right? So this should work even when I'm clicking the button here also, and it should work for shortcut keys also. So what I'm doing is just while this action is performed, like when I'm giving Alt plus S or something, this automatically clicks this button, which will fire the dynamic action that I've created for a button. Okay, so this I'll come back to this commented code. So I'll tell you why I've created this commented code. Okay, so if you see here, so this is the static ID of the button which I've given. So where we will give the static IDs. If you go to a button, so there is a section, there is an attribute in the advanced section where you can give the static ID. Okay, so this is how we use a jQuery just to click the button. Okay, so once I click the button, so this is just for saving the employee details. So once I click the button, what I'm doing is I'm just writing an insert operation to insert the data. So this is actually not a good practice to write the code here. I've just given like just for the example for you to understand, I've written the code here. Just create procedures or like enclose it to, put the procedures in your package and just call the packages here. That is the best practice to do, because we should not give more load to the application server. Okay. And here I'm just inserting the data into the table. And then next what I'm doing is I'm just showing the success message. And this is another API which is used, like, let's consider I'm having 3 regions here. This is like visible to the user, right? But you know, some pages will have like 10 or 15 scrolls. So if you want the scroll to directly go to that particular region which you want, so you should just use this Apex theme 42 util dot scroll to API. This is also an API which is provided by Apex, and this will be the static ID of the region. Okay, so I showed you, right, for a button we have in this advanced section, we have a place to where we can give the static ID. Same way, we'll have the same thing for regions also. Okay, and the next thing is why I've given this set timeout. Set timeout is nothing but it is a JavaScript function which is used to give a delay. Okay, so why I've given this is like as soon as the action is fired, the JavaScript is so fast, it is running so fast in such a way that before the other actions fire, this is also getting fired. Okay, so that is why I've given the set timeout. So it is just, it's not a very big delay. It is just a 10 millisecond delay, which they like the end users won't be able to find it. Okay, so here, so after this, what I've done is, if you see here, this the item which I've created here, this is called the P2 employee. Okay, so I'm just setting focus to this item, so the user need not go and click it again. So maybe I can show it to you once more. If I'm giving test, and I'm just giving one, and I'm giving test address, and if I'm giving control places, you can see that the focus is automatically going to this particular field. So that is the reason why I've given this. Okay, so these are some of the other examples, like using different APIs, just how you can just set focus and all those things. Okay, so then after this, what I'm doing is I'm just refreshing this next item so that it will fetch the latest value from the database. Okay, so that is the next action which I have written. And then what I'm doing is I'm just clearing all the fields to the left side because it is no longer required for us. Okay, and next is the second one. Second one is for the for mapping the employee. So after mapping the employee, what I'm doing is, so if you see here, as I told you, I've created this function here. So once I click on, just a moment. Yeah. Yeah. So once I click on Control plus M, sorry, Alt plus M, which I've given here, what will happen is this particular action will be fired. So this is the name of the JavaScript, like the name of the JavaScript functions, which I've given as an action in the add method. Okay. So what will happen is that in the same way, I've just given the static ID of this button, and this will automatically be clicked, and the dynamic action for this button will get fired. Okay. So here also I'm just updating some data in the tables, and then I'm just executing. It is the same Java, like a similar kind of JavaScript code. Now I'm just setting the focus to the employee details region. It is nothing but the report which I've given here. It will just set focus to that. And then next, I'm just refreshing that particular region to show the latest data. Means it will just fetch the latest data from the database, and will show you the latest report. Okay. And then again, what I'm doing is I'm just setting focus back to this item, because once this transaction is done, I'll have to go and I need not go and click back here and type, right? So like, let's consider I'm just clicking on test, and I'm choosing some department, and next I'm choosing some project. And if I'm giving Alt plus M, so this region get refreshes, and this focus goes back automatically to this particular field. So they need not use their mouse again. Okay. So the main, as I told you, the main focus of this is we should not use mouse. We should just like do everything using keyboard shortcuts. Okay. So once this is done, I'm using control this Alt plus P to print the report, right? So this is the next one. Okay. So as I told you, I created one more JavaScript function. It is not mandatory that you should create like different JavaScript functions. You can also handle the JavaScript functions with by passing parameters or keys or anything. Okay. I've just done it just to show you an example. Okay. And here, next I'm going to this print report. So here what I'm doing is I'm just executing a JavaScript code. So what this will do, so this will help you to print the report. Okay. So if you see here, I've given the format as XLSX. So that is the reason why this is getting, so if I'm giving Alt plus P, if you see here, it is getting downloaded as XLSX, right? So if you go to this action, if you go to this download, you will have many formats here like CSV, HTML, Excel, and PDF. So let's consider you, if you want to download this as PDF, you can directly change this to PDF and just click on OK, save. And if you run the page, and if you give Alt plus P, it will be downloaded as a PDF. Okay, so this is like one more use case like which you can use instead of going to the downloads and like going to the downloads, opening up a dialog box and clicking what format you want to download and clicking on download. It will take time. So directly based on what you're writing here, it'll get automatic. Like based on the user needs, you can just give the format here for downloading. Okay, so but the one thing, if you want to use this, if you go to the report and if you go to the attributes section, you can see something called in this actions menu, you can see something called download, right? So this should be switched on. So this should not be switched off. So if this is switched off, that API won't work. Okay, fine. Yeah, so this is about the example of how to use keyboard shortcuts to just manipulate through a particular page in an application. Okay, and the other thing is this is we need not stop here and like you don't think the apex.actions has only this much functionalities. As I already told you, apex.actions is a very big interface. It has a lot of methods and all those things, but in this session I'll be just focusing on adding shortcuts. So maybe in the future sessions I'll be telling more about apex.actions. Okay, fine. So now let me come back to the PPT, and next is about the interact. So Richard, should I stop now and answer the questions, or at the last should I do?
We can have it at the end of the session, Akil.
Okay, fine.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So now I'm going to talk about the interactive grid customizations. And before that, I want to tell you what an interactive grid is. So the reason why interactive grid was built was, so before interactive grid, interactive report was one of the main features which we are using to like show the data as report, right? But there were many questions which was getting raised up. Like people were asking like, why don't we have a table which is editable? So that's why the Apex team decided to develop something called interactive grid, which will allow us to do some DML operations. Okay, so this interactive grid is like a totally like a customizable thing which was developed by the Apex team. So it is like it has a vast functionalities which which can be customized a lot. Okay, so I'll give you some information about the interactive grid. So in this interactive grid, what will happen is the data, it is sent from the server to the client. The server is nothing but the backend, and the client is nothing but the front end, like the one which you're seeing here, right? So this is the client. Okay, so the data is sent from the server to the client in JSON format. JSON format is nothing but I showed you objects in key value pairs, like so that is called a JSON format. Okay, and once we are editing something and saving, the data is again converted into JSON format and it is sent back to the database. Okay, and it is sent to our, like we have some procedures or some things which we are writing to save the data, right? So it will just go and hit that particular thing, and it will a particular procedure or something which you're writing to save the data, it will go hit that and it will just save the data. Okay, so if you see this interactive grid, like it is like built with a lot of widgets. So widgets is nothing but it is like pieces of JavaScript codes which is written to perform a lot of functionalities. Okay, like client side functionality. So example, if you go to the interactive grid, if you have like actions menu, save, reset, and all those things, right? So the menu, the toolbar, everything, it is like kind of widgets. Okay, so like we have a lot of widgets. I won't be able to explain everything, but these are some of the widgets which they are using, like the interactive grid widget, toolbar widget, menu widget, and record view widget, table model view widget. Like there are many widgets which the interactive grid is using just to show the data to the users. Okay, right. So now let's come to the difference between an interactive report and an interactive grid. Okay, so if you see, the main difference between the interactive grid and interactive report is, for the interactive report, all the data, like including the HTML code and everything what we write, it is rendered from the server and it is pushed as like one piece of code to the client. Okay, means like it uses one single JavaScript, like one single piece of JavaScript code. It's not like a 10 or 20 lines of code. It's like 1,000 lines of code. It uses like that much lines of code, and it like pushes the whole code at one shot to the client. Okay, but interactive grid, it is not like that. It will just take only the data from the backend, and it will do all the HTML rendering and the CSS, like all the things which is the customizations on the client side. Okay, so that is why interactive grid is totally different from why it is doing in the client side, is because we have all these widgets, right? So all these widgets, the data, it will be saved only as, like, let's consider you're not you're just like you're doing some filters. Okay, you're doing some filters and doing some aggregations and all those things. So it is not getting saved into the database. Like unless you save that report, it is not getting saved into the database, right? So what will happen is the data, it will be passed from the server, it is passed to the client. So the client does all the HTML rendering and all the JavaScript code rendering, everything it is done on the server. Okay. So now these widgets, right? So these widgets are all customizable using some JavaScript initialization code, which the Apex team has allowed us to do. Okay, because they can't do all the customization, like they can't give us options. Like we have options here, like in the attribute section. If you go, we have like they have given us many options here, but they cannot give us all the options which we can do. Like if you go to the attribute section, they have given us an option to switch off this, that. Like there are like thousands of customizations which we can do. Everything can't be given it here. So they have given it to the end users. The end users are nothing but developers who are us. Okay. Right. So now let's come to the example. So yeah. So now, so I have one example which I'm just showing about an object. Okay. Right. So let's go to this page 3. Yeah. So this is this is an interactive grid which I just created with some like a normal piece of SQL query. And here, if you go to the attribute section of the grid, you can see in the advanced section, if you can see something called JavaScript initialization code. So this is the place. This is what. This is not the only place. This is one of the place where you can customize the code. Okay. So here, like we have two objects. Objects is nothing but as I told you, right? So we have many key value pairs and all those things. And the JavaScript code for the interactive grid, it is like nearly 15 to 16,000 lines of code. They have written JavaScript codes with which we can use that particular objects to customize. Okay, so here it is mandatory to use config object or an actions object, so that we can return, like we can do our customization, and after that we should return that config object back to the JavaScript code. Okay, with which we can customize our particular interactive grid. Okay. Why I told particular interactive grid is this JavaScript initialization code is like different for each interactive grids. Like if you go to the next interactive grid also, you'll have the same thing. Okay. So now what I'm doing is I'm just printing this config object for you so that I can show you how this can be customized. So for the people who don't know, like you can use console.log to print the data to the developer console. Okay. So like now I've loaded the page. If you see here, if you go to the developer console, just open the developer console. And if you see here, an object has been printed. I told you, right? The config is an object which is being printed. Okay. So once you open this object, you can see many, like you can see like many key value, like many arrays, which also has objects inside it. Okay. So the 0, 1, 2, like now example, I'm just showing you columns. Columns is nothing but which is visible here. Okay. So if you go to this columns, you can see like what data type we are using and what is ID, is it a primary key and all those things. Like we have many customizations here. So you can use all this for customizations. Okay. So that's why I told you, right? The interactive grid, it will only fetch the data from the backend, and it will like show all, like it will do all the manipulations of the client side, like all the HTML rendering and all this in the client side, so that it can fetch all the data from the server and show it to us. Okay. So you can see, right, we have columns and all the things. So you can use all these objects in this particular array to customize. Okay. So next I'll show you how to customize. But here, if you see, you have only very less customizations here. Okay. So they have restricted us to show only very less customizations for this config object. But if you want to see more, like we have a piece of code. So this is the piece of code with which you can see like most of the customizations which are available for the interactive. Okay. So now I'm just clearing this. So you need not always go and go to this execute on page load section, save the code and run the page to see. You can directly print it in the console also. Okay. So here IG customization is nothing but this is particular for a like for an interactive grid. Okay, we should give the static ID of a grid in order to see the customizations available. Okay, so I'm just giving Epic this is an API which the Apex team has provided us just to get the config objects available. Okay, so once I'm printing this, if you see here, you'll get like if I showed you this that config object which was available, like that had only very less options, like very less objects available. But if you see here, you have this detail view, grid view, icon view. So detail view, grid view, icon view are nothing but the ones which are visible here. Okay. So all the options which are available here, it will like you can customize everything, like 90% of the grid you can customize using JavaScript code. Okay, so this is just for showing you like what all features are available. Next, I'll show you an example of how I have customized the grid. Okay, so here what I'm doing is I'm just using the column names which I provided in the interactive grid query. Okay, so I'll just show you the difference. So if you see the difference between these two grids, if you see the employee name column, right? So if you can see an underscore here, but this is this I'm using the same query here. But if you see here for this column name, you have employee underscore name and you have employee name here. Okay, the reason why that appeared is if you see in this code, in this piece of SQL code, I've given the alias name as employee underscore name. And here also in the one with, at the top right, here also I've given employee underscore name. Okay. But once you save the grid, this underscore is automatically removed by the Apex, and in this heading, it will be appeared as employee space name. Okay. So if you want to use the same alias name which you have used in a query, you can customize the grid. How can you do that? Is just go to the attribute section, open the JavaScript initialization code. As I told you, I'm just using this config object. Okay, so in this config, I'm using columns. Okay, so if you see here, as I told you, I'll just refresh the page. Okay, so now this object is printed. So you can see, right, for this config I'm using this columns. So please don't get confused by seeing all this JavaScript. So once you start using it, you will get a little bit used to that. While I am explaining it for the first, I'm just explaining the concept. I'm not explaining on how to do it. Okay, here if you see here, we have this config object. So this config object consists of many like many arrays. Okay, so now I'm just taking this column array, so which is nothing but the one which I'm showing you here. Okay, so this column array has many, like has like 0 1 2 0 1 2 3 is nothing but the columns. Okay, 0 is employee name, 1 is employee department, and country is 3 here. Okay, 0 1 and 2. Okay, not 3, 0 1 and 2. So here if you go inside, see, I'm just taking the columns and I'm just storing it into a variable. Okay, and I'm looping through all the columns. Like I have 3 columns, right? I'm looping through all the columns, and the mandatory thing is you should just check whether the column is hidden or not. Okay, this code will work only for the columns which is not hidden. So this is the main thing which you should look, like is hidden, right? So you can also see this is hidden. It will be available here. You can see this, right? So is hidden is false. So what will happen is for this particular column, like it is looping through columns, like it will loop through 0 1 2. Okay, so for the first thing it will come and check whether it is hidden. Okay, and if it is not hidden, what I'm doing is this column hit, you can see this IG call heading, this is nothing but a variable. So I'm just taking this name. Okay, so the name I'm just fetching it from this columns. Okay, you can see this columns, right? So if I come down, you can see this name. Okay, so this name is nothing but the name of the column which will be printed. Okay, so I'm just assigning this name to a particular local variable. And if you see here, this call options heading dot heading, see this heading is nothing but a JavaScript object which will be visible here. Okay, so if you can see here, right? So this is the heading. Okay, so inside this you will have one more heading. So this heading is nothing but the heading which is being displayed here. Okay, so I just want to fetch that particular name and assign it to the heading. Okay, so I'm just storing the name to this particular call heading variable. I can directly use this here also, but it is like a best practice to store it in a variable and then use that variable. Okay, so I'm just checking whether the column is hidden or not. If it is not hidden, I'm just assigning it to the heading. Okay, after that, what we should do, it is always mandatory to return the config object, because after all these changes are done, the latest config object which is there, that should be returned to the code, the JavaScript code which they have written, right? So that's why we are returning this config object here. So that is the reason how, if you can see, now let's consider, I'll just show you an example of, see, I'm just giving employee underscore department for all the 3. Okay, and I'm just saving the grid and I'm running the page. Okay, so now if you see this employee, this also got employee underscore department here. The reason why it happened was it fetched the column, it went to this columns array and it checked whether like what name it has from here, because I was fetching the name, right? So it is from the yeah. Oh, sorry, I didn't print this. Okay, just a moment. Okay, I'm just printing the config for this particular grid also. Yeah, so I got it here. So now if you see, this is 0, 1, 0, 1 and 2. Okay, so I should go to this columns because I've got the columns there. And for the second one, I'm just checking for the name. Okay, so the name is employee department. So what I'm trying to do is I'm just fetching this name and I'm going into this heading object and I'm checking for the heading and I'm just assigning it to the heading here. So I'm just doing a simple thing, just fetching the name, going to this heading object and I'm just going in like setting it to the heading here. Okay, so that is what I'm doing here. I'm just taking the columns from this config object. I'm just taking the columns and I'm just looping through the columns and I'm checking whether that column is hidden, and I'm just fetching the name from the column for each, like this. This is a loop, so I'm just fetching it for each column and I'm checking whether it is hidden or not. If it is not hidden, and I'm just assigning it to the heading. Why I've given here heading dot heading is because it is one level inside the heading. So this is the heading and it is inside this heading. So that is why I've given heading dot heading. Okay, so this is one example of how we can customize the interactive grid. Okay, so this is like a very basic example of how you can customize the grid. So now I can show you a live example of how we can do it. So uh, uh, okay. So let's consider, yeah. So now in this pagination, you can see this total row count, right? So now we are getting this total as 4. Okay, so total row count is true. Okay, this is inside the pagination object. Okay, so now I'm going here. I'm going to the first grid where I wanted to remove it. Okay, so I'm just using uh, config dot pagination dot. So why I'm using pagination dot is it is inside here, and this total row count. Okay, total row count is equal to false. Okay, and I'm just returning this config object, the modified config object. Okay, so now when I'm running the page, you can see this total row count here is gone. And if I'm going here, and if I'm checking this pagination here, you see this total row count is false. Okay, so this is like one of the way how we can customize the grid. Okay, so it is like you should be very careful while using this like these pieces of code, because once this code has failed, the whole like this page won't even be rendered. Like you will get only a blank page because it is a JavaScript error. So once you get some JavaScript error at the start, because this will run when the grid is getting initialized. Okay, so if you get an error, the page will be stopped. So always open the console while writing some JavaScript codes and print your data, like some try to do some debugging in the console and then try to do it. Okay, so this is like one of the examples. So the second example is like how you can do a customized shape. Okay, so now let's consider I'm just doing some update here and I'm just saying, so you can see this interactive grid is getting saved. So same way if I'm doing some insert also, so I'm doing some insert here and I'm doing some test, I'm just saving, it is getting saved. But what I wanted was, I just wanted to show a confirm for delete. Okay, so I'm just deleting the row. I'm just clicking on save. You can see that I'm showing a confirm here. Okay, so this can be done only through JavaScript, like because this confirm, it should be shown, it cannot be shown from the server, it should be shown in the client. Okay, so we have to do some customization in order to achieve this. Okay, so now I'm just going to the interactive grid where I'm just showing the save. Yeah, so if you see here, I have just combined some jQuery also and some other APIs also to do this. Okay, so in the same way, I'm just using this config object and init action. So I showed you, I printed something and I showed you, right? So in I'll just print it once more for your clarity. Yeah. So if you see here, I in my customization, I'm using init actions. Okay. So if you see here, we'll have this init actions here. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. You can see it, right? So you can see this init actions which is available here. Okay. So this is being shown as null here because we are not given any actions here. Okay. So in this init actions, what I'm doing is I'm just taking, like, I told you about this actions API, right? So this actions API was mainly developed for interactive grid while they were releasing the version 5.1. Okay. Apex version 5.1. So this was one of the main reasons why they have developed this actions API. Okay. In order to centralize the code, as I already told you. Okay. So I'm just passing these actions here, and I'm just like, this actions will have something called lookup. Okay. So this, as I told you, right? So here in this, if you print everything, right, you can see all the things which all the features which are available. You can see it here. Else, if you want to, like, if you know how to debug JavaScript codes, you should just go to the sources and open this static application files and go to this libraries, and all the JavaScript codes for this interactive grid will be available here. Okay, you can just copy this whole piece of code. Like, I use VS Code for editing. Just, you can use any editor and just beautify this code, and you can have a look into it. Okay, but it will be confusing when you look into the first time. But once you start customizing the interactive grids, you will get a better understanding. Okay. So now this actions has some other object called lookup. Okay. So in this lookup, you have different things like lookup, edit, save, and all those things. But now I'm just focusing on save. Okay. And I'm just saving this to this save, no, this action save, I'm just storing it to a local variable. Okay. So this local variable, what I'm doing is I'm just, so this custom save, like, even I can use like dot action here also, but I just wanted it to store it into a local variable, so I can use it anywhere I want below. I don't want it to use again the same thing again and again. Okay, that's why I stored it in the local variable. It's like, just like, let's consider in a PLSQL code, you are just calling a function. Okay, so you're not going to call the same, if you're using the same function in a procedure 100 times, it will impact the performance rate. Instead, you can store it in a local variable. The result, you can store it in a local variable and use that local variable. So it is like that only. The same concept, I'm just using it in JavaScript. Okay. So this save action dot action. So what this will do is this will do the save action here. Okay. So I'm just storing it to a local variable. Okay. So for this action, we can write like what this is nothing but what should happen when you're clicking the save button. Okay. So what I'm doing here is, so inside this config object, I'm just taking the region static ID. So if you see here in this console, uh, okay, I think I delete. Yeah, you can see this region static ID, right? So inside this config object, I'm just fetching the region static ID. So instead of hard coding, we can directly fetch it from the config object itself. Okay, so I'm just fetching the region static ID, and I'm just using jQuery. I'm just finding the rows. Okay, so this is like nothing, jQuery just to find the rows. Okay, so I'm just checking whether, like, I try to find out a way, like when you're processing the save request, right? I try to find out whether like we can find, like in the PLSQL code, we have something called apex$row status, where we have CUD for finding the whether it is insert, update, or delete. But here I was not able to find this out, so I just followed this approach. So it is like, I'm just checking whether it has a class name. This particular row has a class deleted. Okay, so I'll show you how that will appear. So once you click on delete row, and if I'm just inspecting this particular row, if you see, this will get a class called is deleted. Okay, the other rows won't have. This is deleted thing will be appended. So if you just update, you will get is updated. If you insert, you will get is inserted. Okay, so these are like classes which will always be there, which won't be removed by the Apex team also. Okay, so we can like use this classes. Okay, they are also using this as some identifiers for their codes. Okay, so what I'm checking is, if this has if this grid, if any of the rows has a class called is deleted, then I'm just showing this message, like using the apex.message.confirm API. I'm just showing like whether you want to delete it, and this save action I showed you, right? So I'm just saving this action here, and I'm just executing. So off is like, if you use, like if I'm using like this, it won't execute. Okay, so I'm just calling this function here. Okay, so if it is like deleted, I'm just asking a confirm message, else I'm directly saving the action. Okay, so this is like one way of how you can do it. There is also, like, if you are doing this, you can't create plugins, or you cannot use it globally. Okay, there is also another way. You can also use it using the different Apex APIs. So like they have provided, like the Apex team has provided us APIs which can be used in global level also. Okay, so like what I'm doing is I'm just fetching this details region and I'm just getting the views. So as I told you, interactive grid, I think I missed to tell this. So interactive grid, it has different layers. So the one which you are seeing here is a view layer, and where the data is stored in the client is called the model layer, and the where our final data, like the hard-coded data which we are storing, right, it is stored in the database. Okay, so we have views, model, and the data Oracle database. Okay, so if you see here, first what we have to do is we'll have to get the views of the grid. Okay, and from that views, I'm just storing these views in a local variable, and from that views we'll have to get the model. Okay, why I'm getting the model is, as I told you, the model is the place where the temporary data is stored. Okay, yeah, and from that what I'm doing is, from this particular interactive grid, I'm just getting this widget. I told you, right, interactive grid it will use many number of widgets. So I'm just getting all the widgets, and from that widget I'm getting the actions. Okay, so like we have toolbar, we have get toolbar, we have get actions, so we have many things. So get actions is to get the actions. So actions are nothing but save, edit, delete, and all those things. Okay, so I'm just getting the actions, and I'm just getting only the action which I want. Okay, I just wanted the save action. Okay, so after getting the save action, I'm just storing the action, like I told you, right, in that initialization code. This action, I'm just storing it into a local variable, and I'm just using, it's like, it's nothing like all these pieces of code are totally same. Only the way I'm fetching the data, there I need not fetch all these details because I'm already inside the grid. Okay, but here I should tell the browser, like, I want to fetch this grid, I want to fetch the views of this particular grid, and from this I have to fetch the actions only, and I have to fetch the save action only. Okay, so I'll have to tell the I have to tell the client, I have to tell the code that I want only this particular things. Okay, and the rest is same. I'm just fetching the rows, and I'm just checking whether it is deleted. So if it is deleted, I'm just showing a message, else directly use the save action. Okay, so these are some of the ways how you can customize a grid. There are also many other ways how you can customize a grid. So these are just very simple examples which I showed you. So yeah, that's it from my side. If you guys have any questions, please let me know.
Thank you very much, Akil. Yeah, very nice presentation. It's a deep technical thing, and it's very much needed for our session, because I could see many of the experienced developers here. So really, it's the nice knowledge on the giving shortcuts, keeping shortcuts in the Apex application, and also exploring the IG internals so that they can customize it. Thanks a lot, Akil.
Thank you.
And
Thank you, Rich.
yeah, and the next session, we are going to learn about building a custom reporting solution to generate or print PDF with less efforts by developers. So I think we are running short of time, but still we can try to cope up our best. So please stay tuned, and over to Pooja.
Yeah, I'll share my screen. Let me know.
Yes.
Visible?
Yes, yes, you can make it as
Yeah.
presentation.
So, first of all, good evening, everyone. Welcome you all for the Innog Explore session. So, I'm going to share the topic of no-cost PDF generation in Oracle Apex. So, I'm Pooja Devraj from 4iApp Solutions, working as a senior consultant. So, I'm a passionate Apex developer, experienced in developing enterprises applications using Oracle Apex. So, the main agenda of this topic is custom reporting solutions and about Apex client-side PDF plugin. So, how to generate a custom PDF report in Oracle Apex. So though we have a lot of reports to generate a PDF, like built-in PDF printing, download, Windows print method, plugin methods, Jasper methods, and also the Apex Open print. So though this method, why I'm choosing the Apex client PDF plugin means for all these report generations, we need the support from the DBA or sysadmin for any installations of these reports. But instead of this plugin, we don't need any DB or support from anybody. we can do it directly download it from the internet and directly use in the application. So directly we can use the in the application. The main agenda of this plugin is it will convert the HTML content into the PDF converter. So is used to create PDF documents on client side from HTML content. So this was developed by the Rindendorfer. So you can refer the GitHub of his web service to get the knowledge of the plugin. So the main advantages of this plugin is any custom report can be developed. For example, if you go for any shop, there will be an invoice or needed for any billing we need. No? So we can easily generate the PDF like purchase order, sales order, and barcode label building. Also, we can able to generate in this PDF reports. So there is no license to be purchased. We don't want to purchase any license with some minimal cost or something else like that, and we don't want to worry about the number of reports has to be created. And there is no need of, as I said before, there is no need of installations of any of these servers. So the main advantages of this is we can able to select the regions which we are going to print as a PDF. For example, in Windows print method and all, just it will just print the whole report. But we can able to select the regions what and all we need to print in PDF. So the little challenges in this plugin or saving as a blob and sending mail attachment to be explored. So how to generate the custom PDF reports is, so first of all we have to create the report page. In this we are having a three region: header region and body region and the footer region. So after that we are having an header table as a report. In this report we are going to add a new column as a button or a text or a link. So we are going to link this button to this page. So after setting all this, we are going to import the plugin setup. So we are just going to import the plugin into the application, and we can directly use in the dynamic action in the page load. So after that, we can run the report by clicking the button. If you click the button, the details will be available in the details will be available and created as a PDF report. So let's move for the demo session. So this is a already created report. In this report session, there is a report order number and customer name, date and all. So for the particular customer, particular date is there. So in this, we are going to print a PDF. So this is the output of the PDF. The header table details will be available here, and the details will be available here. So this is the output of the PDF. So here itself, I'm going to add one more column. For example, I'm going to add the download PDF as download. I'm just going to save it. So yeah, before changes into a link, I'm going to create one new page. So create a classic report. Page 137. Sales order details. So I have the query for the details tables. navigation is not required. I'm gonna create a page. So after creating the page, I'm going to create a page item, which I'm going to map there. Order ID is the primary key, so I'm going to do this. So after this, come to the page 4. In this download, create this as a link. A newly created page number 37. I'm going to link this order ID and save it. So the download column will be available here. So after this, in this, I'm going to change this non-model dialog and template as touch frame and remove padding. Okay. So in inline, I'm just going to add the color and the size of the report I just want to. Okay. After adding this, in dialog header, I'm going to create one region as a header. And make this as a PL content. So after this, I'm going to add a logo and the address of my company. Just a minute. So after this, I'm going to make this as the blank with attributes because the header it should not be visible there. And I'm going to create other report region below and make this as a parent report. Guys. Okay. So after this, I'm going to install the plugin in the page load, create dynamic action. In the show, Apex client-side plugin PDF will be available. I have already downloaded and imported this, so it is available here. So this is the CSS classes we need to use in the body, header, and the footer. And we can download or we can show it in a new window. Okay. So after creating all this, I'm going to the same page. So I'm seeing this. So just copying the PDF header and pasting it in CSS classes to call the plugin. So it's going to be hidden. And create a subregion for the title. And make this as a blank reports. Okay. So here is full name content. And for the same title, so I'm just giving the title as the sales order. So I'm saving it. After this, I'm creating a subregion for the header table. So change this as the PDF content and use the details. So I have to change the page item. It's correct only. So I'm just verifying it and saving. You need to change the template to so blank with attributes. It's gonna save. So let me check this one. So yeah. So I have to remove this report. So template and blank with attributes, saving it. That's it. And click on the download PDF. The PDF will be downloaded automatically, or you can just display also, as I said before. You can select the option as show in new window or download. I just given the option to download, so it is directly downloading it. So that's all. So it is a very easy way to download the PDF. If you want to add the footer also, we can able to add the footer here for the page numbers and all. So this is very easy method to download the PDF. So yeah, thank you. If any questions, let me know. Hello.
Okay, thank you, Pooja. And yeah, if anyone has any questions to ask, now it's time. So people can unmute and ask the questions, or you can post. As of now, there are no questions and the time is also up. So if anything, we can always reach out to Enoch. And so thanks everyone for joining today's Explore session from Enoch. Our next Explore session will have more about the workflows and some expert knowledge sharing. So stay tuned, and advance wishes for a happy Independence Day and a long weekend. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you all. Have a good day. Bye.
Thank you.
Thanks everyone. Bye.